You're listening to
such a short amount of time to do it in.
a Mamamia podcast.
Hi there and welcome to Cancelled, a podcast from Mamamia about who's in, who's out and who cares. I'm Clare Stephens. I'm a writer, an editor and a person who needlessly obsesses over petty celebrity drama. And here I tell the story of a celebrity cancellation to my twin sister, Jessie Stephens. I am she, that's me, a writer and an author who thinks cancel culture is a little bit absurd. And together we emulate a courtroom where we say, okay, just like stealing is more wrong than, say, jaywalking in a court of law, some celebrity crimes are more naughty than others.
Well said.
And therefore you need a sentence that fits the charge, because what we're not here for is somebody who does the equivalent of jaywalking no longer has a career.
They need to be sin binned.
No.
So
sin
what
bin.
we're about is a sin bin model of justice.
Yes.
Where we put them in.
Also karma.
Also karma, which is discussed. But,
Or fool me once, fool me twice. Like, yeah, that kind of thing. But there's a sin bin where a celebrity goes for a set period of time, not indefinitely. No, I've read the law.
I've read the law, and there's a sin bin situation, and then they can come back and we go, stop being mean.
Yeah. Today, we're talking about Karl Stefanovic.
Your skin's beautiful.
It's very simple and inspiring. I love you. Say it. Mean it.
Just keep out. You're a meddler today. You are causing trouble.
No, it's cup day.
Exactly. You are frisky. We're scared.
Oh, just a man. Just a man.
Starting to get a little awkward, mate.
No, it's not. It's always awkward.
Karl is best known for being the face of The Today Show and, more broadly, the face of Channel 9. He first went to 9 as a reporter in 2003 and he started hosting Today in 2005. But known affectionately by some fans as Carlos, Carlos just really suits him.
Yeah, it does.
Has had some scandals, and the best thing about them is that they're all really petty.
Yes.
Really petty. Let's begin with the time he was straight up drunk while hosting Today.
Hello and welcome to you and a special edition of the Logies. It is 5:30, it is bright and it is very early.
It's basically not long after the night before. It was a great night. It was a fantastic night.
So Lisa has not slept and neither has Karl. I'm talking about myself in the third person.
Yeah, when did that start?
It's 2009. And yes, it's the morning after the Logies. And it really is, in everyone's defence, it's very early. I think it's honestly 5:30 in the morning, which seems unnecessary, which brings me to the things we cancel along the way. Why does breakfast television have to start so early?
Why do they have to get up at 3, 2:30?
I think it would be because I've done the calculations. And if you have to get your hair and makeup done and travel, it's silly.
Technologically, we've accomplished so much.
Yes.
We've come so far. This is archaic.
How does morning television still happen so early?
Why does it still have to happen so early? It's too early for someone to get up.
Yeah.
Everyone's tired. Who's watching it? I don't mean to be judgmental, but if you're getting up at 5:30, 6 a.m., 6:30...
Is it to watch breakfast television?
Exactly. You should have somewhere to be. Because if you're getting up that early because you have an appointment with Today, geez.
I advise more sleep.
Exactly. The people I know who get up early have places to be, people to see.
Yep.
So I want to know who's sitting around watching this because apparently, according to the stats, a lot.
Exactly. They tune in to see their Carlos.
So morning television is too early.
Yes. So Karl's reading the weather, day after the Logies, and he's slurring.
Let us have a quick look at the weather now, and it's going to be fine for most parts, including Queensland, New South Wales. You know what?
We've got a few
cares?
showers. We've got a few showers in Melbourne today and 17 degrees.
Sir, the people of the Northern Territory care. You can't just go New South Wales, Queensland, maybe a bit of Victoria. Oh, God.
What I love, though, is that he got to his state and then he did attempt to care about another state and then he ran out of steam because he went, I'm across what my situation is in New South Wales.
Seems sunny.
Which is my response to every weather forecast I've ever read, like I've ever looked at on the television.
Also sounds horrible, but a little bit with COVID as well.
Yeah.
It's like this is how things are in New South Wales. Oh, ACT.
Well done, ACT. You're really vaccinated. That doesn't help me.
Exactly. Glad you're having a sunny day.
Yeah, Jesus. Before he's even finished saying who cares, Lisa has jumped in because she's professional.
She's on it.
And she's making a joke about how Tasmania wants to know their weather because Launceston local Rebecca Gibney had just won the Gold Logie.
That's professionalism.
So she's trying to be like, haha, you're drunk because of the Logies. Speaking of Logies, Tasmania is a place in our country.
Sober Lisa is just so onto it. It was like she was going to go, I'm not just sober. I'm with it this morning.
I'm with it.
Because I'm making connections.
Because I'm a professional. Karl says, how beautiful is Rebecca Gibney? She's a great sort.
No.
This is going to be a recurring theme.
Okay. I feel like when you watch the footage of that, we'll put it on our Instagram on the Twins Thoughts.
Obviously.
What you can see is Lisa Wilkinson doing a tap dance in the corner. Don't look
I'm
over
a dancing.
I'm a dancing.
I'm a dancing under the
Don't
table.
look to my left at Karl.
In that he's drunk.
In that he's drunk and he's objectifying women, and he really doesn't care if it's raining in other places of the country today. Look over here. She's troubleshooting in real time. That professionalism.
She is. Despite the fact that Karl was straight up drunk on television, no one cared.
Contributed to his lovability.
No one cared. Which says everything about Australian culture. That they were
was
like,
the best news
he's
story.
an American. Of course he's drunk on. Haven't we all? I don't think so.
I would be. If I had to be up that, this is what happened to Karl. He went to the Logies. It finished. And honestly, by the time it finished, he had to be up in 3 hours. So he was like, I'm going to have one beer. He went and had a beer, and then the next thing he knew, he'd had 14 beers.
And he
But
was on television.
He was actually on television. And he was like, uh-oh. And we all know that feeling.
I know, but this man turns up for work, a job he's being paid hundreds and thousands of dollars for, drunk,
But the
and everyone's like,
But the aforementioned point is that it was too early,
yeah, okay.
which isn't his fault.
All right, there's a conflict of issues here, okay? This brings us to a point I'm only raising because it will be relevant later on. All right, and it's the suit. In 2014, Carlos, I'm only going to refer to him as Carlos, shared that he had worn the same suit every day for a year and nobody had noticed. He made the point that letters would be written to the network about what Lisa was wearing, like complaints. And that people did have a lot of opinions. I remember she once wore the same thing twice and everyone lost it. And then she was like, wasn't even the same thing, just similar. Oh, leave her
And
alone.
if it was the same thing, do people think they don't wash them?
Yeah.
Carrie's gotten in trouble before because she's worn the same thing. And I'm like, I'm sure she washed it.
It's not even hers.
It's not hers. It's from a rack. It's probably a different garment.
Yeah. It's
Same
just the
style.
same. So what he said was that he had noticed all these complaints about what Lisa and the other women were wearing, and his wardrobe choices were never commented on. The story went global. Everyone thought it was a very clever experiment. I would just like to mark this as the height of Karl. If we're doing the rise and fall, this is the rise.
This is the rise. And all he did was not change his clothes.
Yep.
That's
Very
just
little.
low bar. I love it. I love the point he made. But it's a low bar. He just put on the same suit every day.
But it really established him as a good bloke
Making a point.
who understands and stands for the right things. And because of that, it meant that when he made a mistake or did the wrong thing, it was fine.
We all make mistakes. That's what this podcast is about.
Yep. In 2016, he used the straight up wrong terminology to describe transgender people. He used an offensive term. I'm not going to repeat it. The next morning, he stared down the barrel of the camera and gave a genuine apology.
It was a great apology.
He's good at apologies. He admitted he was an ignorant fool, and then he was commended for the way he handled the situation. And he won awards handed out by the LGBTQI community.
Oh, should he have won an award? I mean,
They liked it.
is he really an advocate?
They liked when he apologised. But it turns out, despite the fact that Australians do seem to love the drama in some contexts, for example, Home and Away, for example, Neighbours, and they like when people break up on those shows. They do not like when people break up in real life.
Because he's an Aussie bloke who made a mistake in this situation. He's a good, honest Aussie bloke, would be the 4 descriptors of him. Mm-hmm. You can't leave your wife.
You can't leave your wife.
Because
that goes against
the
it.
people who are watching you, from what I can gauge, are women who maybe think they are your wife at home.
Yeah.
I think it's probably mothers
Yeah.
with kids. And so they're like, oh, he's like my husband, just a bit bit silly,
chirpier.
says the wrong thing.
Says the wrong thing, but he owns it.
Yeah.
And that
turns up to work drunk, just like
my husband.
Pete over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good, honest Aussie bloke. You can't be leaving your wife
Yeah.
because it is an affront on me, the viewer.
Yeah, it is. It is. So in 2016, Karl separated from his wife of over 2 decades, Cassandra Thorburn.
Cass. Affectionately known
I
as
know,
Cass.
I know. Cassandra Thorburn. Cass. She's been on Dancing with the Stars. The divorce was finalised in 2019. Karl was with Jasmine Yarbrough, who was in her early 30s, just a few months after his separation. It probably wasn't the quiet divorce he had hoped for. Cass spoke to the media about how she felt and talked about Karl leaving her and their children to start his new life. She described the divorce as feeling like someone had died, and she told Woman's Day, "The children still have a father, but I don't have a husband. He really is dead to me, and no, we won't ever be friends again." It didn't end well.
The women of Australia said you can't leave your wife. The thing is, you can. You can. It's not a crime, but it's upsetting to some.
Yes. During a tongue-in-cheek segment about divorce on the Kyle and Jackie O show earlier this year, which I was listening to live, don't ask why, Karl joked that his 2 Logie Awards were at the bottom of Sydney Harbour somewhere.
Right. So
So
the
he's-
divorce hasn't been smooth.
No, and there's this, basically what I'm trying to tender into evidence is a phenomenon known as mudslinging. Okay?
right,
and
yeah.
so Cass throws something, Karl throws something. I listened to the thing about the Logies at the bottom of the heart, and I was like, okay. Like, no.
There's a little bit of tension.
You
but
don't need to say this on Kyle and Jackie O, because Kyle loves this too hard.
I loves a bit of gossip.
He's like, oh!
I think they're good friends, Kyle and Karl.
Yeah, they are.
Right.
Yeah. There's basically a constant back and forth between them about the divorce, and it's uncomfortable. And look, as you said, you're allowed to leave your wife, not a crime.
Not
But
in this
Renee, watching from a hypothetical lounge room in Australia, is also allowed to have feelings about it, and she will.
And she does, because now she said, you know what, he's not the good, honest Aussie bloke I believed him to be when we first married. He's betrayed me.
You know who is?
Who?
David Kosh.
So true.
Koshy.
And David Campbell. All the Davids.
They are. So they've switched, and
Yeah.
they've gone back to Sunrise. Next. In October 2017, Lisa Wilkinson was booted from the Today Show after hosting with Karl for a decade. The network got rid of her because of a contract dispute whereby she was asking for something resembling pay parity with Karl. Lisa was on the show one day and never came back. And Karl didn't defend her in the media or seem to challenge the situation at all.
Whenever I heard the thing about him not defending her, you know how his only means of defending anyone is through his clothes? Because of where he wore the suit? I was like imagining him dressed as a $50 note to represent pay parity for like a whole year.
And it's very confusing.
And it's very confusing. Like he's dressed as like a $2 coin. He's like got a $2 coin on his head.
It's like
this-
men get paid dollar.
It's like your activism is very showy.
Maybe use your words.
Maybe use your words and your negotiating power.
Yes. Some people believed Karl had betrayed his co-host, and they wondered why Karl hadn't advocated for her to be paid the same as him, considering his feminist worldview, as evidenced by the suit. We'll have a bit more on this later on, because we do have to get to my favourite thing that ever happened.
Okay.
It's Ubergate.
Ubergate was my favourite story of the year.
It was my favourite scandal of early 2018. I will say that with no conditions.
Big call.
Because it was. Peter Stefanovic is in an Uber late at night with his wife, Sylvia Jeffries.
They now have a baby.
Iconic
One,
couple.
two.
I don't know. Maybe
Multiple.
two.
Okay.
And he's bitching to Karl, who is on speakerphone.
Hard relate.
The Uber driver records the conversation and tries to sell it to tabloids. And eventually someone's like, oh, mate, unfortunately that's illegal. And the Uber driver is like, that's okay. I guess I'll just recall the conversation perfectly from memory.
By listening and transcribing it. Naughty.
Speaking of cancellations along the way,
You're mad at the Uber driver.
the Uber driver needs to be cancelled. You can't.
I disagree. I reckon that Uber driver had, maybe he did 35 trips that day. I reckon 31 of them got in his car and put their phone on speakerphone and had a conversation. You know what that is? It's rude and annoying. And he's just trying to go about his day. And the first one was talking about a baby's nappy. And the next one was talking about petty workplace drama. And then he listened a bit closer and he went, oh, my God, that
I know
is
him.
Good Aussie bloke, Karl Stefanovic.
He's in my lounge room.
I'm going to make some dollars from that. My wife would be horrified to hear this.
The thing...
He'd had it. The Uber driver had it.
The reason I do put the Uber driver up for potential cancellation is this.
It's illegal?
No. According to the driver, Karl was bitching about his Today co-host, Georgie Gardner, who he said didn't have enough opinions and was sitting on the fence. And apparently Karl was angry and said she needed to step up if she wanted to stay on the show. So the reason I'm like, Mr. Uber driver, Georgie didn't need to know that. I always feel weird when people come up to me and they're like, oh my God, so-and-so was bitching about you, that this is what they said.
You never tell the person.
And I'm like, okay, that person's cancelled for bitching about me, but relatedly, you're cancelled for telling me.
Because I didn't need
Stop
to know. Now
it.
I feel embarrassed.
I wouldn't have known. I'm happier not knowing.
Because now I feel embarrassed I don't have enough opinions. And then I'm going to be on TV the next morning and be like, I hate Vegemite.
Like the crime
that's not
here-
authentic.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be opinionated. I think she had some days off. I recall.
And she was mad.
She was so mad.
The crime here is being mean to Georgie.
Well said.
Both Karl and the Uber driver for sharing it, and Peter for listening.
Peter for not announcing that he was on speaker.
I know.
If you call me and I put it on speaker and I'm in the car with my partner, I go, Claire, you're on speaker, because I know you're going to say something like period related or something that you don't want people to hear. Yeah. You've got to warn people. That's the rule.
Apparently, Peter also whinged that he hated his job and it was sucking the life out of him.
That is me most nights. Like, I've had a good day, but I'm tired on the way home. And I go,
hungry.
I hate my job. Sucking the life out of me. Cancelled was so annoying today. And I say it on speaker, but no one cares. I have said unmentionable things in the back of Ubers after a big night. The gossip Uber drivers know about me and my life.
This was a watershed moment for Australians' relationships with their Uber drivers, because you went
power flipped.
You're listening. Are you listening? I thought you weren't listening.
So when I'm on the phone talking to you, having a cry, whatever I'm doing on my phone,
You're bloody listening.
and they're taking notes.
Yeah. You're recording on your phone trying to sell. It's illegal.
But you can record.
They also bitched about Richard Wilkins being too protective of his entertainment industry contacts, which is a lull because I can see that being true. He does seem protective of his contacts.
He seems like an entertainment hog.
He does. As well as 60 Minutes being irrelevant and Channel 9's board being out of touch.
What made this story so compelling was how much of it was true.
Because you might be like, oh, yeah, let's just make up a story about Karl bitching about Georgie.
Like Peter said that everyone at his work was dumb. No, he didn't say that.
No, they said the board was out of touch, which is so
absolutely true. And Richard Wilkins is annoying with his contacts. Like,
yeah, totally believe it. So petty. You'd be really mad at your brother. And Karl did say that to his good friend Kyle. On Kyle and Jackie O, he said he was very, very pissed at Pete.
Are they still friends?
They're brothers.
Yeah, I know, but like, do they still get along, or do they bring up? I reckon every time they have a fight, Karl would be like, "Don't make me bring it up. Don't make me bring up the Uber situation." And it's like, every man, woman, child has the right to bitch about a colleague. I would not deprive them of that.
Never.
Which Karl had the right to do that about Georgie. Maybe he had a point, maybe he didn't. He just needed to not be on speakerphone. I needed Peter to have some headphones. He could have had AirPods or headphones, because Sylvia was in the car with him. So Sylvia was
clearly he wanted Sylvia to hear.
So just get headphones, like,
and share them?
the Apple ones, and share them, like one in each ear, like you're in the back of a bus.
Yeah.
But I needed you to have headphones.
But no, I don't think the crime here is the bitching. I think it's the speakerphone, and I think it's the recording of it.
Yeah, definitely the speakerphone.
Next, Karl's transgressions, none of them are huge in and of themselves, but in my mind, it's like, you know how people talk about the viral load of COVID?
Yeah.
And the viral load increases. So if I'm exposed to COVID, but then I'm exposed over and over again, my COVID gets more severe.
Yeah.
That's like Karl.
high car load.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when something hits, it's like I'm just not being hit with one, I'm being hit with the entire load of car loss.
Because just a few days later, Karl interviewed Kylie Minogue on 60 Minutes, and it was really, really weird. And it was awkward because you did get caught out saying that 60 Minutes was irrelevant, and now you're on 60 Minutes.
Be awkward. He was probably in a weird mood about it.
It was the weirdest interview. We'll put the whole thing on our Instagram, but it was too gushy, and it would seem he has a crush on Kylie, and it wasn't
Was he
appropriate.
single? Oh, maybe he was with Jasmine already.
I think he was with Jasmine.
Oh. I thought it might be him putting himself on the market.
No.
He had no decorum.
He was like nervous, and he said, I mean, it helps obviously that you're a hot 50-year-old. One, she wasn't quite 50.
We don't start calling a woman 50 before
she's 50. And then
it's very objectifying.
She looked really awkward and replied, thanks, we try. And she clearly didn't know what to say because she was being interviewed and this man was being strange. There was a really long, awkward pause while Karl chuckled until she eventually added, I mean, I don't know what to say to that.
If Lisa was there, she'd start tap dancing.
Yeah. La, la, la. La, la, la.
She'd start doing a little dance. That's why it worked.
Yeah.
She would distract. She'd have the perfect thing to say. She'd go, silly Karl, and she'd tap him on the head, and it'd be a funny, wholesome segment.
Yeah.
And every wife would be like, that's me with my husband
Yeah.
after a few drinks when it gets inappropriate with the neighbour's wife.
And it's like, why is he drunk? Hosting 60 Minutes. Karl proceeded to tell Kylie she should stop dating incredibly good-looking dickheads. So it's like, don't give her dating advice. It feels weird.
It feels weird. And like...
Also, this was not long after that other weird interview that a guy, I think it was a Channel 9 person, did with Jacinda Ardern. Do you remember that?
No.
Where he was like, you're very pretty.
Can Australian journalists stop? They're so embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing.
It's like every time Karl Sandilands gets on a thing and then someone like Lord is like, I'm never speaking to that man again. It's like, can you not? This is their one access to us. And it's always a middle-aged man who says something about them being a lesbian or something.
It's
like, can you
no
not?
wonder Kylie moved. Because she comes back and you've got a man leering. That's the only way I can
Salivating,
describe
rubbing
Kyle,
his hands.
Carl being like...
in a suit he has never changed. And he smells.
It's awful. So
He smells like excited sweat.
he does. Karl was dumped from Today in 2018. And look, you say...
Was that Ubergate related? I
well,
think it was.
Was it Uber? Was it Kylie? Was it all of the above?
Was it Cass?
And that's what I mean about the viral load.
Yeah.
Okay. Then he comes back. He returns to Today in January 2020. Okay? And people are like, it's always interesting that they think people are really going to care. They're like, Karl's back. Everyone's like, what?
Karl got.
Karl went.
Who's been hosting? Claire. They had two women.
They had
for a
two
while.
women, which the media slammed it. It was Georgie and Alison? No. Oh, I feel Deb. It was Deb.
Georgie and Deb.
Yeah.
That's who it was.
And
And Deb has a great job on the radio.
Yeah. So it's Georgie and Deb, and they kept saying how bad the ratings were while they were on. They've been worse since Karl came back.
No one mentions that.
No one says that.
It's like they kept changing his female companion when Today wasn't getting the
Yeah.
views in the early days. And it's like, what's the common denominator?
Yeah.
It's the one man you're not subbing out. Anyway.
It's Carlos.
Yeah. People do love Carlos, don't they?
So in February, they're like, people don't seem to be noticing that Carlos is back. So they do the weirdest ad that's ever been screened in Australia. Okay? It's Karl and Alison. Sorry. It's just so weird. It's Karl and Alison Langdon. And Karl is in a cell like Hannibal Lecter.
This year,
Good morning, Karl. So, it's you and me.
Good morning, Ali.
You better get used to those early mornings again.
I've missed the smell of morning coffee.
breakfast television gets juicy.
I love that that's how the media sees cancellation. Hannibal eats people.
Yeah. Anyway.
He's a cannibal.
Karl then says,
Is Alison meant to be like Clarice?
yes, as if that wasn't obvious.
Apparently, I've been a very naughty boy.
Again, the weird sexual overtones and a woman who's like, oh, Carlos. And that's our whole shtick is just patting him on the head and tap dancing when he gets drunk.
Speaking of, Alison then says, everyone is watching, Karl. Are you going to behave?
It's weirdly sexual.
And Karl answers, you will just have to wait and see. And then he goes, he's then wheeled off in a face mask and restraints. So like on like a bed, like Hannibal. And I just need to know, who was in the room when it was like, we need a promo ad?
I reckon it was Carlos's idea. And he was like, I'm back.
You know what I
I've got an
watched
idea.
while I was off? Hannibal Lecter, great film. Here's my script. And everyone was like, oh.
You know when you just can't be bothered saying no? And it's like, let's give it a whirl.
I just like, the thing is, I know the feeling of creating this ad, of having an idea. You make it, you watch and you go, oh, that's not quite right.
And then you go, maybe I'm being too hard on myself. And then you let it out in the world and you go, no, I'm not. I was accurate.
My gut was right. And we now let that out. And I just remember, do you remember, Jessie? It aired during the premiere of Maths, which couldn't have been, just think about Maths, biggest show on television in terms of ratings, like over 1 million people a night. And that airs. And all of Australia was like, what? Why? Who is this? It was terrifying. So that happened.
Okay.
Then, finally, Lisa Wilkinson has released a book. It's called It Wasn't Meant to Be Like This. And in it, she talks about Karl and her relationship with him. She said there wasn't much of a relationship at all. We almost never saw each other off air, and there were times when I wondered why that was, because I did tend to reach out a lot more than Karl ever reached out, she said.
But he was busy meeting Jasmine.
Yeah. But, you know, the magic continued on air. In an extract from her memoir, Wilkinson said that by 2015, Stefanovic had suggested they negotiate their pay together in a Friends cast style negotiation. So famously, the Friends cast all said, we want to be paid the same. And so...
Great idea, Karl.
Yeah, so they would present a united front, like pay us the same or we walk. But by December that year, the teamwork had gone out the window. Karl had signed a $2 million deal with Nine, and because apparently he had been approached by Seven. And I think he's just a very good negotiator.
What I'm hearing is that Karl forgot about the deal. I think he forgot.
And then he negotiated and he was like, eee.
I think that maybe he was drunk.
Yeah.
In the same way that I'm often drunk and I make a plan for the next day. And
Yeah.
I'm like, let's go rock climbing. And then I wake up the next day, I'm like, I would have never said that.
No.
I would never have committed to such a thing. I think that happened with Lisa.
Yeah.
And because Lisa was always had to be sensible because he was drunk.
Yes.
Maybe she thought he was for real.
Yeah. Wilkinson was still renegotiating her contract in 2017. She was asking to be paid more, not equitable to Karl's salary, but closer than it was up until that point. She said, we had taken that show together in the space of 10 years to number one, coming from a place where that job that I took on was a bit of a poison chalice. And I felt it was about time that the spoils got shared around a little more equitably. The interesting thing is, so she does say we took it to number one. It was, the ratings were bad before I came on. The ratings when Lisa left fell through a cliff. And the greatest thing is no one will admit it's got anything to do with her. So it's just like Karl's divorce. Was it? Or was it exactly the same time Lisa left? Yeah, very strange. And then you put a woman with him and then you say, no, not that woman. Not that woman. That's wrong. Here's another woman. No, not that one. Let's give him a break, bring him back. Still doesn't work. Still bad.
So maybe it's Carlos after all.
Very sad.
Very sad.
It all came to a head on the Monday morning after Lisa Wilkinson returned from annual leave. So what happened was that she and her husband, Peter Fitzsimons, had renewed their vows in a second wedding ceremony. And Carlos was invited and he didn't turn up.
He bailed.
And he texted Peter, but he didn't get in touch with Lisa. And so that morning, Lisa turns up for work.
What I'm hearing is that he's unreliable. And that is not what you want in a friendship.
No.
Lisa says Karl never said anything about the fact that he didn't turn up at the wedding until the cameras went on the Monday morning. And I had a moment of thinking, right, so this is actually just a relationship for the cameras. He never texted me. He never said congratulations. And I was trying to compute all of that because I never understood why he wouldn't talk to me. And that morning, the only congratulations I got was when we started the show at 5:30. In Karl's defence.
He didn't know where he was before 5:30. I don't.
Are we speaking to anyone before 5:30? Can you imagine getting in at 5 a.m. and having a bit of a chitty chat? Oh, hell no.
I'm being friendly?
Get away.
I
Get
wouldn't be
away.
speaking to anyone. I'd be
Before,
so rude.
before I am contractually obliged to speak, I shan't be speaking.
I shall be silent.
So I do get that he comes on and he's like, oh, hey, congratulations. And it's like,
I'm being paid to speak now.
Yeah.
I will speak when I'm being paid to, not a moment before.
No. Lisa says, I felt a bit foolish because I just thought I don't even know what this relationship is. This is purely just a relationship for the cameras. And I couldn't talk to him for 2 hours apart from what was scripted. I just couldn't talk to him because for the first time in over a decade, I didn't trust myself that I was going to play nice. It sounds very sad.
Yeah, it does.
After the show, she said she attended the staff conference call as per usual, and then she went to the supermarket, and it was at the supermarket that her manager called her and said, you're off the show. You're off the Today Show. And she says, I remember driving home and she tried to call Pete and he didn't answer, and so she thought, I'll call Karl. And then she thought, is that why he didn't come to the wedding? Is that why he never texted me? And she said, Karl's the guy that wore the same suit for a year because he didn't like the way women in television were treated, but he didn't really stand up for me. Famously,
He acted weird.
Weird vibes. Famously, Wilkinson and Stefanovic met for lunch 2 weeks later, but they never had it out. She said, I've had to really examine why I never confronted him. We can tend as women to want to be the peacemaker, to be the one that sort of stills the troubled waters. And I was also very aware that I could have agitated a lot more than I did. And she said that she felt like if she did, it would muck up their chemistry. This is all from a no filter that Lisa Wilkinson did with Mia Friedman. It's incredibly interesting about her book. But
what that no filter didn't offer was a charge.
No.
A charge for Karl, which is all anyone wanted.
Exactly.
A charge and sentencing. We need some conclusions and we need to know how to process all of this information.
We do. So charges and sentences. Jessie, go.
All right. Charge number 1. I have my first charge and it's not for Karl.
What?
And it's not for the Uber driver. And it's not for Lisa. It's for Peter.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was Peter.
I can't stress this enough. He really needed headphones. I charge him with being that guy in a public space, such as the train, the bus, or walking down the street, speaking on loudspeaker, and I don't appreciate it.
Okay, guilty. Bang, bang, bang.
Bang, bang, bang. Noise pollution.
Yes.
No one cares about your stupid conversation.
Can you imagine if everybody did that? That's the thing that makes it
Only
so
men do
upsetting.
it. Only men of a certain
Yeah.
age do it, and you know it's true.
Yeah.
Where are your headphones? Sentence. You could argue this man has served his sentence, but no, that's not what this is about. There is no double jeopardy here.
No.
The next 3 Ubers Pete gets in, I want him to have some work that he needs to do urgently.
Mm-hmm.
Scripting.
Like, for example, he is going to a war zone and he has to report at the war zone and he has to know the whole conflict and the history of the conflict.
Exactly. Something really, really important, and he doesn't have a lot of time. He has 15 minutes. But the Uber driver is having a conversation on speaker.
Yeah.
And it's really loud.
Yeah.
And it's an argument maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Distressing.
it's sexual.
Can't concentrate.
And I want Pete to have to try and concentrate.
Yeah.
And then I want the Uber to make a series of wrong turns
Yeah.
because not concentrating, because too much
on
on
the
the
phone.
speakerphone.
Yeah.
I want that to happen to Pete, as stated, 3 times so that he learns his lesson.
Okay.
And then I want him to never forget his headphones again.
Okay. Yes.
That's my
Lovely.
charge and sentence.
Lovely. Very specific.
Thank you.
I like that. Okay, my first charge is for Karl.
Okay.
It's for being a white man.
Oh,
And we've
had this
played-
before. That's in the book.
Yeah, it's in the law book. We've played this game before. Is he bad? Did he do the wrong thing? Or is he just a white man? I believe Karl is just a white man on Australian television, and he therefore can do no wrong. And just like Justin Timberlake, he knocks people out of the way. Okay? Incidentally, he's like, bang, Lisa Wilkinson. bang Georgie, bang. Like he doesn't realise it's just because he's a white
creating
man.
chaos.
Yes. So
How do you charge someone for being a white
Well,
man?
hold on. Do you think he's guilty?
Oh, yeah. I meant how do you sentence him?
Okay. He's got to apologise to Lisa,
Okay.
and he has to give her a nice wedding gift.
All right.
Yes.
What's like a cutlery set?
A nice set of plates with initials.
Oh.
And maybe like from Karl.
From Carlos, because that's his nickname.
Carlos. And so every time she eats off them, she goes, oh, remember when Carlos gave us these for our wedding vows?
Great idea.
Yeah.
That's lovely. That's lovely.
He does owe her a present. Seriously.
All right. My charge. Forgetting that he made that deal with Lisa.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right? It might have been the day he was drunk on set.
Yeah.
It actually works with the timeline.
It doesn't, but
It doesn't, but it could be.
I think it's 6 years difference. Continue.
We don't know when they made the deal. It could have been a long time before.
He made
the deal drunk.
I did state,
I wasn't paying attention
I
to
did
the dates.
state that he made the deal in 2015. Continue.
Okay. Much earlier, which is why he forgot. And he made lots of promises, as we all do when we're drunk.
Yep.
We make promises. And then we back out of them. So what's the sentence? This is a very good sentence.
Guilty. Go. Yeah.
Correct. I think Karl needs to organise Lisa's farewell.
Oh, that's
Because
really
Lisa never got
nice.
one, and that is the biggest crime here.
Oh, can you imagine working somewhere for that long and not getting a bloody...
Yes. I'm really pissed off she never got a farewell. So, I believe Channel 9 has money allotted.
Oh, God.
For that kind of long service, I mean, they would have it there. And Karl has to not only organise a farewell, which means booking a venue, being the last one standing, having a cry over a champagne and saying, I love you, I hope we cross paths again.
Yeah.
He also has to organise the card
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
circulate it and go, has anyone seen it? It's lost. I haven't seen it. Have you signed it?
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't sign it. Why not? He also has to organise a present.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, here are my bank details.
Oh.
Hey, have you transferred me for the present?
Yeah.
Hey, just to follow up, have you transferred me for the present? It's Karl Stefanovic. Here's my BSB and account number.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, have you transferred me for the present? And so on.
Calls Pete. Pete, seriously, man. Transfer me for the freaking present.
Am I on speaker?
Got to transfer me. You know what's really annoying? Georgie hasn't transferred me for the present. Are you in an Uber?
Or Richard Wilkins.
Yeah.
He's too busy hoarding his contacts. So he has to organise that.
Yeah. Actually, no, because then he's also got to ask favours. He's like, hey, Richard, I'm having this really big farewell for Lisa. Why don't we get some celebrities there? And Richard's like, well, I hoard my contacts, so I guess I can't let them come to Lisa's farewell.
Georgie, what should we get her? And she's like, I need more opinions.
I don't have any opinions. I'm just a silly little woman.
I just sit on the fence. Okay. So he has to get Lisa a nice bag and a personalised journal monogrammed.
Yes.
LW.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Okay. I think she's into monogram things is the thing we're getting here. He has to say the speech. And obviously has to be the last one standing. The woman is owed a farewell. After that, Karl is forgiven.
Okay. I do agree that the farewell is what's standing in the way.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well done. I don't
Thanks.
think the 9 bosses will sign off, but otherwise, great suggestion.
What's your final charge?
My final charge. Being very lucky with his job in that everyone else gets fired except him and then bitching about it in an Uber.
So guilty.
I've written like he doesn't even like it, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. It's like when you're a kid and you eat all the chips even though you don't like them just so your sister can't have them.
Because Lisa never bitched.
No, she liked her job. Whereas he was like, ugh, Channel 9, ugh.
Richard, so on.
Yeah.
Okay, well said, well said. What's the sentence?
Is he guilty?
Yes, I
Okay.
said guilty.
Sentence. Lisa comes back and confronts him on air. And so does Georgie.
Wait, can I add? Because this is what you do is you brainstorm a sentence.
And then Pete joins
yes.
and adds his
But
2
I
cents.
think that
and so does the Uber driver.
Okay, but I think Lisa and Georgie get to be drunk.
especially Lisa.
Yes, just
I think she has like
champers.
10 cocktails before and she gets to go on and she starts saying, you know, who's hot? Brad Pitt. And then she starts being revolting to him.
Yeah.
And then Karl has to tap dance.
Yeah, and be like, ooh,
Look over here, ignore that. And then she does the weather and she's like, New South Wales is hot and Tasmania's always cold. It's always cold and raining.
she says, I'm always surprised by the weather in Perth in that it is very hot.
But doesn't give any specifics.
No, no. And Karl is just like, oh, no, this is going terribly. But I do think that it's a special.
It's a reunion special.
Yes. It's the Today Show reunion special.
But also the Uber.
Yeah, he's part of it.
Well, that's not really. It feels like two reunions mashed.
Well, Karl is today.
It feels like a Karl reunion.
Yeah.
Okay.
But on the Today Show.
All right. Oh. But the Uber person comes and Lisa. They don't really have anything to do with each other, but that's fine.
Anyway, it's separate. Like as in there's phases to the intervention.
Segments.
Yes. And so like Richard comes on and just sits down and says, tell me what you really think about me and my celebrity contacts. Okay, so it's a bit of a confrontation and I would just like it on the record. I should be a TV producer because that is a brilliant idea.
I think there's got to be a negotiator. Just to keep
Mediator.
A mediator.
Dr.
Like
Phil?
Dr. Phil.
Oprah?
I think it's Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil. He'd be good.
Is he the Nine Network?
I don't know.
I think that would be good.
Yeah.
I mean, the irony is Lisa would be great at it, but she's
No,
involved.
she's involved.
Yeah.
Carrie?
That's Channel 10. This is terrible. You're
Yeah.
terrible, but I agree. It's like an hour-and-a-half special, Sunday night.
But you say she's 10, so's Lisa.
now?
Yeah.
Anyway. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Cancelled. We hope you had as much fun as we did. You can, if you want to support us, which we love, you can subscribe to Cancelled. It helps other people find us, and leave a kind review. If you try and leave a negative one, it won't load.
That's not true, but we say
Don't
that.
try.
Please don't.
You'll get a virus on your phone.
Yeah. It'll be the karma police.
Which we have established exist. The producer of Cancelled is Rose Kerr, and the head of podcast at Mamamia is Elissa Ratliff. Feeling overwhelmed by the 24/7 news cycle? Mamamia's podcast, The Quickie, will bring you up to speed daily, covering the latest news headlines in 5, plus a deep dive to find out everything you need to know in one go.
What impact do you think having a more diverse cast will have on the kids who watch this generation of Wiggles?
The videos with Sahai on TikTok are getting way more views than most of the other videos. Obviously, Anthony's a legend, and both Simon and Lockie, they're both musical theatre trained, so they know how to work a stage. But the way Sahai commands a stage is quite incredible to watch. It's really something to behold. She's engaging, she's full of energy. I know kids already love her, but when she puts on that yellow skivvy, I think her popularity is just going to skyrocket. So it is a really good business decision for the Wiggles.
Check it out in your favourite podcast app. We will see you on the Mamamia app.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.